The midday sun blazed relentlessly over a sea of sand dunes, an unforgiving testament to nature's extremes. Every grain shimmered like molten gold under its fierce glare. A man staggered through this vast desert, his movements unsteady and slow, his lips cracked and parched. His once proud gait was reduced to a limp shuffle, his boots sinking into the shifting sands with every agonizing step. The weight of his survival pack felt like a burden too heavy to bear, though it was nearly empty now, just a hollow reminder of what he once had. His name was unimportant. Who he had been, explorer, scientist, adventurer, was now meaningless in the face of nature's indifference. His communication device lay silent in his pocket, its power drained. Days ago, he had strayed from his expedition, lured by the promise of uncharted regions beyond the desert's borders. But the land was merciless, and a single misstep had severed him from his team, leaving him alone to battle the endless sands. His throat burned with every breath, the dryness in his mouth unbearable. He had been without water for over a day now. The sun, a merciless overseer, watched him stumble and fall, the coarse sand scraping his palms as he struggled to rise again. He was dying, and he knew it. His thoughts drifted to the life he had lived, the people he had left behind. Regret and longing mingled with the desperation that kept him moving forward. And yet, even as his vision blurred and his strength waned, there was a flicker of stubborn hope that refused to be extinguished. Somewhere, he believed, there might be salvation, a hidden oasis, a passing caravan, a miracle. His legs gave out, and he collapsed onto his knees, the sand scalding against his skin. He stared out over the horizon, where the heat played tricks on his eyes. The shimmering air seemed to form shapes, trees, water, a figure. His heart leaped at the sight, but he chastised himself for being a fool. He had seen mirages before, but this was different. The figure did not waver like the illusions he had chased earlier. It grew clearer, sharper. A silhouette against the endless dunes, approaching with deliberate grace. His breath hitched as he realized it was a woman, tall, slender, and radiating an otherworldly aura. Her skin shimmered faintly, like the moonlight on water, and her hair flowed in waves of colors that defied description, as though she carried the hues of a distant galaxy. He blinked, certain he was hallucinating. His mind, addled by dehydration and exhaustion, must have conjured her from the depths of his desperation. Yet she continued to draw closer, her movements fluid and purposeful, her feet leaving no trace in the sand. When she reached him, he dared not speak. His voice had long abandoned him, and he feared that if he tried to address her, she would vanish like smoke. She knelt beside him, her presence both soothing and awe-inspiring. Her eyes, luminous and filled with an infinite depth, met his, and for the first time in days, he felt a sense of calm. Without a word, she reached out and touched his forehead. Her fingers were cool against his fevered skin, and he felt a surge of energy course through his body, as though she had poured life back into him. He gasped, the sensation both exhilarating and overwhelming. "Do not fear," she said, her voice a melody that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his mind. It was a language he did not recognize, yet he understood her perfectly. "I am here to help you." He tried to speak, but his throat betrayed him, producing only a hoarse croak. She smiled gently and placed a hand over his chest. A sensation of cool water spread through his body, and the unbearable thirst that had plagued him began to subside. His cracked lips softened, and his parched throat felt as though it had been quenched. "Drink," she said, producing a vessel seemingly out of thin air. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a smooth, crystalline container that glowed faintly with a soft blue light. She tilted it toward his lips, and he drank deeply. The liquid was cool and sweet, invigorating him with every swallow. It was not water, but something far more potent, filling him with vitality and clarity. "Who are you?" he managed to whisper, his voice still weak but returning. She tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "I am a traveler, like you," she said. "But my journey is not bound to the sands or the stars. I come when I am needed." He did not understand, but he lacked the strength to question her further. Instead, he allowed her to help him to his feet. His body, which had been on the brink of collapse, felt strangely light, as though the burdens of exhaustion and despair had been lifted. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, his voice stronger now. Her gaze held his, and he felt as though she could see into the deepest corners of his soul. "Because you wished for it," she said simply. "And because your journey is not yet over." He felt a pang of emotion at her words, a mixture of gratitude and confusion. He had wished for salvation, but he had never expected it to come in the form of this enigmatic being. As they walked together through the desert, her presence a constant source of comfort, she began to ask him questions. Her voice was gentle, yet her inquiries cut to the heart of his existence. "What brought you to this place?" she asked. He told her of his quest for discovery, his desire to map the unknown and uncover the secrets of the world. He spoke of the choices that had led him to this barren land and the mistakes that had left him stranded. "And now that you are here," she said, "what do you seek?" The question gave him pause. He had sought survival, but now that she had granted him reprieve, he realized he did not have an answer. He looked at her, searching for guidance. "Sometimes," she said, "we must lose ourselves to find what truly matters." As they continued their journey, the landscape began to change. The barren dunes gave way to a lush oasis, its waters sparkling like liquid crystal under the sun. Palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. He stared in disbelief, wondering if this, too, was a mirage. "It is real," she said, as though reading his thoughts. "A place where you can rest and recover." They reached the water's edge, and she gestured for him to drink. He knelt and cupped his hands, the cool water flowing over his fingers. It tasted sweeter than anything he had ever known, and he felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. As the days passed, he learned more about her. She was not of this world, but neither was she bound by any one place. She had traveled across countless realms, her purpose guided by the wishes and needs of others. Yet she remained a mystery, her true nature elusive. In her presence, he found not only survival but also a renewed sense of purpose. She taught him to see the world with new eyes, to appreciate the beauty in its impermanence. And when the time came for him to leave the oasis and return to his journey, she stood beside him, her luminous gaze filled with quiet strength. "Will I see you again?" he asked, his voice tinged with longing. She smiled, a gesture that held both warmth and sorrow. "Perhaps," she said. "But remember, the answers you seek are not in the stars or the sands. They are within you." With that, she stepped back, her form shimmering like a mirage before fading into the light. He stood alone at the edge of the oasis, his heart heavy with the weight of her absence but buoyed by the gifts she had given him. The explorer pressed forward through the dunes, his steps firmer now, his resolve unshaken. The encounter with the enigmatic woman had left him changed, not just physically, but spiritually. He no longer saw the desert as an adversary but as a vast, living entity with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Each step felt purposeful, his senses sharpened by her parting words. The air, once dry and biting, now carried subtle hints of life, the faint scent of blooming desert flowers, the distant sound of rustling sand stirred by hidden creatures. Even the sun, blazing as it was, seemed less oppressive, its light illuminating the path ahead rather than mocking his journey. As the days passed, he found himself encountering signs of life in the desert that had previously escaped his notice. A lone shrub clinging to a rocky outcrop, its leaves vibrant with stubborn vitality. Tracks left by an unknown animal weaving through the sands. He followed these signs, feeling as though they were guiding him toward something greater. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, he came across a strange structure. Half buried in the sand, it resembled an ancient ruin, its weathered stones etched with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the fading light. It was unlike anything he had seen before, and he approached it with equal parts awe and caution. As he traced his fingers over the carvings, they pulsed softly beneath his touch, as though responding to his presence. The patterns were reminiscent of the woman's shimmering aura, and he felt a strange sense of familiarity. Was this connected to her? Had she led him here? The ground trembled faintly, and a low hum filled the air. Before his eyes, the ruin began to shift, its stones rearranging themselves with an almost deliberate intent. A doorway formed, its threshold bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through. Inside, the air was cool and still, a stark contrast to the desert's relentless heat. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with more of the glowing carvings. At the center stood a pedestal, and atop it rested a crystalline sphere that radiated a soft light. As he approached, the sphere seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. When he reached out to touch it, the light enveloped him, and the world around him dissolved into a cascade of images and sensations. He saw visions of countless worlds, each unique and teeming with life. He felt the heartbeat of the universe, a rhythm that connected all things. And he saw her, the luminous woman, standing at the center of it all, her gaze steady and serene. Her voice echoed in his mind. "You have found what you seek. But the journey is far from over." The visions faded, and he found himself back in the chamber, the sphere now dim and inert. But he felt different, stronger, wiser. The knowledge he had glimpsed lingered in his mind, a spark of understanding that he could not yet fully grasp but knew would guide him. As he left the ruin, the desert seemed to welcome him. The stars above burned brighter, their light illuminating a path that felt predestined. He walked with a renewed sense of purpose, no longer driven by survival alone but by a desire to honor the gift he had been given. Days turned into weeks, and his journey brought him to the edge of the desert, where the sands met a vast expanse of grasslands. Here, he encountered a group of nomads, their camp a bustling hub of life and activity. They welcomed him warmly, offering food, water, and companionship. As he shared his story with them, their eyes widened in wonder. They spoke of legends passed down through generations, tales of a luminous being who appeared to those in need, guiding them toward enlightenment. They called her the guardian of the sands, a protector and guide for lost souls. He stayed with the nomads for a time, learning their ways and sharing his knowledge. But the pull of the unknown eventually called him onward. The desert had taught him that the world was vast and full of mysteries, and he was determined to uncover them. As he ventured into new lands, he carried the memory of the woman with him. Her presence was a constant reminder of the interconnectedness of all things, a beacon of hope and wisdom that guided him through even the darkest moments. Years later, when he had become a legend in his own right, a celebrated explorer who had mapped uncharted territories and uncovered ancient truths, he would often gaze at the stars and wonder if she was watching. He never saw her again, but he felt her presence in the quiet moments, in the whispers of the wind and the glimmer of light on the horizon. And though his journey took him to the farthest reaches of the world, he always carried a piece of the desert within him, a reminder of the place where he had been lost and where he had been found. As the years passed, the explorer's journey became more than a quest for knowledge. It transformed into a search for deeper meaning. The vast expanses of deserts, mountains, jungles, and oceans became not just landscapes to traverse, but reflections of his own soul. His fame grew, yet he remained humble, often crediting his success to the mysterious encounter in the desert. Those who heard his tales would listen in rapt silence, captivated by the depth of his experiences. One day, while exploring the highlands of a distant continent, he came across another anomaly, a vast stone monolith carved with the same intricate patterns he had seen in the desert ruins. This time, however, the markings were accompanied by what appeared to be constellations, etched in exquisite detail. The sight stirred something within him, a memory that felt both ancient and immediate. As he studied the monolith, he noticed an alignment between the carvings and the night sky. It was as though the stars themselves were pointing toward a destination. He felt an irresistible pull to follow this celestial map, to uncover where it might lead. The journey was arduous, taking him through perilous mountain passes and across stormy seas. Along the way, he encountered other signs, small, almost imperceptible markers that assured him he was on the right path. Each discovery felt like a conversation with the universe, a dialogue that resonated deeply within him. Eventually, he arrived at a secluded valley hidden by towering cliffs. The air here was thick with a strange, otherworldly energy. In the center of the valley stood an ancient structure, its architecture unlike anything he had seen before. It shimmered faintly, as though caught between dimensions. The doorway stood open, inviting him in. As he stepped inside, he was enveloped by a sense of profound stillness. The interior was vast and filled with light, though no source was apparent. At the center of the chamber was a pool of liquid light, its surface rippling gently despite the absence of wind. He approached cautiously, his heart pounding with anticipation. When he gazed into the pool, he saw not his reflection, but a vision, a swirling tapestry of faces, places, and moments from his life. And then, her face appeared, luminous and serene as he remembered. "You have come far," her voice echoed, filling the chamber. "But your journey is not yet complete." He knelt by the pool, overwhelmed by emotion. "Why did you choose me?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why did you save me in the desert?" "You chose yourself," she replied. "In your darkest moment, you called out not just for salvation, but for understanding. That call transcended the boundaries of your world, and I answered." Her words stirred a memory, of his desperation, yes, but also of a fierce yearning to transcend his limitations. He realized then that his journey was never about survival alone. It was about transformation. "What do I do now?" he asked, his voice steady. "Look within," she said. "The answers you seek are already a part of you." The light from the pool intensified, and he felt himself being drawn into its depths. He did not resist, trusting the pull. What followed was an experience beyond words, a merging of his consciousness with the vastness of the cosmos. He felt the pulse of the stars, the rhythm of galaxies, the interconnectedness of all life. He saw his place within the grand tapestry of existence, not as a small and insignificant being, but as a vital thread in the infinite weave. When he awoke, he was lying at the edge of the pool, the chamber bathed in a gentle glow. The woman was gone, but her presence lingered, a warmth that filled his heart. He rose to his feet, feeling lighter than he had in years. As he left the valley, he carried with him not just memories, but a profound understanding of the unity between the individual and the infinite. His path was clearer now, not one of conquest or fame, but of sharing what he had learned. He would dedicate his life to teaching others to see the beauty and interconnectedness of the world, to find hope even in the most desolate places. The explorer became a teacher, a guide, and eventually a legend. His writings and teachings spread across the lands, inspiring generations to seek not just knowledge, but wisdom. And though he lived a long and fulfilling life, he never forgot the luminous woman who had set him on this path. In his final moments, as he lay beneath a starlit sky, he felt her presence once more. The wind carried her voice, soft and melodious. "Your journey is complete," she said. "And now, a new one begins." With a peaceful smile, he closed his eyes, his spirit merging with the cosmos. The stars above burned brighter, as though welcoming him home, and the desert winds whispered his name, carrying his story across the sands of time. Though his physical presence faded, the explorer's legacy endured. His name was etched into history not just for his discoveries, but for the profound wisdom he imparted. His journals, meticulously filled with sketches, observations, and reflections, were compiled into volumes that became revered texts across cultures. People spoke of him not only as a trailblazer but as a bridge between worlds, a seeker who touched the divine and brought back its essence. In villages and cities alike, his story was retold, embellished with every telling. Some described him as a man chosen by celestial forces, others as a mystic who walked with the gods. The luminous woman became a symbol of hope and guidance, her enigmatic presence inspiring artists, poets, and philosophers. Temples and shrines were erected in her honor, and her image appeared in countless forms, always shimmering with the ethereal light of the unknown. But even as his teachings spread far and wide, there remained unanswered questions, pieces of his journey that he had intentionally left vague. What exactly had he seen in the Valley of Light? Who was the woman, truly? Was she a goddess, an alien, or a manifestation of the universe's consciousness? These mysteries only deepened his legend, drawing new generations of seekers to follow his footsteps. One such seeker was a young woman named Kaela. Born in a remote village, she had grown up reading his journals, their words igniting a fire in her heart. She yearned to understand the truths he had uncovered, to walk the same paths and perhaps glimpse the luminous woman herself. Kaela was fearless, her spirit unyielding even in the face of challenges. She studied the constellations he had mapped, memorized the routes he had described, and prepared herself for the arduous journey into the desert. Like the explorer before her, she carried little more than her determination and a belief that the universe would guide her. The desert welcomed her with its timeless indifference. The scorching sun, the biting winds, and the shifting sands tested her resolve, but she pressed on, her heart buoyed by the stories of those who had come before. Days turned into weeks, and her supplies dwindled, but she refused to turn back. One night, as she camped beneath a canopy of stars, she felt a presence, a subtle, inexplicable sensation that she was no longer alone. She turned, and her breath caught in her throat. There, standing at the edge of her camp, was the Luminous Woman. Kaela rose to her feet, her heart pounding. The woman was as the explorer had described, radiant and otherworldly, her eyes holding the wisdom of countless lifetimes. "You have come far," the woman said, her voice like a song carried on the wind. Kaela bowed her head, overcome with emotion. "I have followed his path," she said. "I seek what he found." The woman smiled, a gesture filled with warmth and understanding. "Each journey is unique," she said. "What you seek may not be what you find, but it will be what you need." Kaela stepped closer, her courage tempered by awe. Was he right? Did he truly understand? The woman's gaze softened, her expression one of infinite patience. "He understood as much as his soul could bear. And now, you will understand what your soul is ready to receive." With that, the woman extended her hand. Kaela hesitated only a moment before taking it. The touch was cool and soothing, and the world around her dissolved into light. Kaela found herself standing in a boundless expanse, a realm of pure energy and thought. Visions unfolded before her. Visions of the universe in its infinite complexity, of lives interconnected across time and space. She saw the explorer, his spirit now a part of the cosmic weave, watching over her with a gentle smile. Tears streamed down her face as she felt the immensity of existence, the profound beauty of being both small and significant within the grand design. She understood now that the Luminous Woman was not a single being but a manifestation of the universe's desire to guide, to connect, to awaken. When Kaela returned to the desert, the Luminous Woman was gone, but her presence lingered in Kaela's heart. She felt a new clarity, a sense of purpose that burned brighter than ever. She would continue the explorer's work, not by retracing his steps but by forging her own path, carrying forward the wisdom she had received. Kaela's story became the next chapter in the legend, and she, too, inspired others to seek, to question, and to journey into the unknown. The Luminous Woman remained a constant, appearing to those who dared to venture beyond the edges of their understanding. And so, the cycle continued, the story of the explorer and the Luminous Woman echoing through time, a testament to humanity's unyielding thirst for discovery and the boundless mysteries of the cosmos. As the years turned into centuries, the legend of the Luminous Woman and the explorer grew beyond the confines of stories and cultures. Their tale became more than history. It evolved into a symbol of hope and transformation. Across the world, monuments and traditions emerged, celebrating the eternal connection between the seekers of knowledge and the mysteries of the universe. Kaela's life, too, became an inspiration. She had forged her own path, blending the teachings of the explorer with her own discoveries. She left behind maps not of land but of the mind and spirit, guides for those who wished to follow their inner compass. Her writings spoke of balance, courage, and the boundless potential of every soul to uncover the extraordinary within the ordinary. In time, humanity grew more attuned to the lessons of the Luminous Woman. The world changed, technology advanced, borders blurred, and people began to see themselves as part of something far greater than their individual lives. The explorer's teachings, Kaela's wisdom, and the Luminous Woman's timeless presence intertwined, shaping a new era of harmony and exploration. For though the Luminous Woman's appearances were rare and fleeting, her influence endured. Her light sparked in those who dared to ask the unanswerable questions, who sought not only the edges of the physical world but the depths of their own hearts. She lived on in every act of courage, every leap of faith, and every moment of wonder. And so, the cycle of seekers and guides continued. The deserts, the oceans, the stars, they remained vast and mysterious, calling to the brave and the curious. The Luminous Woman's light, though distant, never faded, illuminating the path for those willing to step into the unknown. In the end, the explorer's story, Kaela's journey, and the Luminous Woman's wisdom became a shared inheritance, a reminder that the universe, in all its infinite vastness, is also within each of us. And as long as there are those who dream, who strive, and who seek, her light will shine, guiding humanity ever onward toward the infinite horizon.